Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I'm going to be honest, a very disappointed episode of Bodied, a Cloud9 Fancast. I am your disgruntled host, Havocpuss, alongside my grumpy co-host, Roast Creek.
Hello. Yes, it was a long weekend and a long 2 weeks for Cloud9 fans. No matter what team you're a fan of, to be honest, unless it's PUBG Mobile. But I'm not convinced that anybody actually watches PUBG Mobile. So I think it was a long week for everyone. A long 2 weeks, technically.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that happened. We're going to try to go through some of this really quick and get to probably the more pressing issues. The only positive thing that happened in the past 2 weeks is that PUBG Mobile won the first place spot at the fall regional finals, and they will be going to the global finals in Malaysia. That's about it. It seems weird that we have a PUBG Mobile team. I don't think anyone watches it or is really that excited about it. I'm not sure why we're in PUBG Mobile out of all the Battle Royale stuff. We actually seem to be pulling out of Battle Royale in general. I mean, we've actually just, I think within the past 2 weeks, we've gotten rid of two, if not all of, pretty much all of our Fortnite Brazil players. So it seems like it's weird that Cloud9 is sticking with PUBG Mobile out of all of the sort of Battle Royale games and not others.
Or yeah, maybe it's some kind of like Clash Royale thing where they're good and they pull in enough money and recognition to like make it worth it, but it's not like a long term kind of deal because Clash actually lasted a decent amount of time, but it's dead now.
Our Clash team kind of spiraled out of control. Like we were going in, I think, as people were rating us as one of the best Clash teams, and then we completely, slowly but surely, like steadily declined. I don't even think we made playoffs or something. I can't remember, but pretty much like as soon as that year was like that season was done, we just scrapped the team and got out of Clash. It was a really weird time. Vainglory is still the best mobile Cloud9 team ever. Don't at me. We won back-to-back North American championships and placed third at Worlds. That's all I have to say.
I mean, I will say our WoW team is pretty good too.
Yes, WoW team is pretty great as well.
And if they win,
I think BlizzCon's next week, actually.
Yeah, but nobody cares anymore after Blizzard screwed up the Hong Kong thing.
Oh, they did.
Real bad.
I'll still support our WoW team though.
I'll support them in spirit, but I'm not going to
watch. Mango got 5th, 6th place at Rising Star. He lost to HBox, I believe, in the some losers bracket. I can't remember. Rocket League went 0-2 this week in RLCS. They lost to Space Station Gaming and Birds and the Bees, which is a really odd two teams to lose to. I honestly thought that the team could have done better, and they just looked they looked like they were having a really bad weekend. I'm not sure if it was just they were having a bad day or something was going on in practice, something. I don't know. Rainbow Six is also having a bad time. They have parted with their coach, Summer Rain, and it was a really unfortunate time to lose him because the team was going to the APAC tournament, and they ended up losing in quarterfinals.
Yeah, not ideal.
No, it was not. When it really rains, it pours, and I guess like when you're a cloud-based team, you know, you have to kind of go through the water cycle. So you're this cloud that's just building up all this disappointment, and then you have to rain it all out, all at once.
Or yeah, I'm looking at the Rocket League or the RLCS standings right now. I don't see Birds and the Bees on here, but I do see that we did lose, or that we're 1-3. We're second from bottom right now, so not ideal from a team that has been a world champions in just the past year and a half. So
I have a theory, and I've been having this theory for a while, that once Cloud9 win like the big tournament, right? they can never get back to that form and play to that level ever again. Well, we've seen it happen. CSGO, they won the Boston Major and has been a fairly mediocre roller coaster since.
Yeah,
League of Legends,
self-inflicted.
Overwatch, season 2 was really not that good. And we're going to get to Overwatch in a minute. We're going to talk a lot about that, but Overwatch had really big struggles and did not look like the same team as from season 1. And I think that for Cloud9, the get out while the getting is good, because once you peak, you can't get back to that peak. Honestly, I think the Heroes of the Storm team had it right. They won that BlizzCon. They were world champions, and then they disbanded. they left when they were out on top.
Fair. That's the way to do it.
Exactly. Not to trash the org or anything, but I've just said, correlation doesn't equal causation, but I am sensing this pattern of events leading up to really big success, and then the success afterwards does not equal as big as that first success.
Yeah, I feel like that's a discussion for a time that we do have more time to talk about it, though. So yeah, I'm gonna write that down for the future.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in that. Right now we got a lot of news to talk about. I guess the next biggest thing is the CSGO roster. Yet again, we have swatched out some players. Tens is now benched. Cloud9 made a video about it. Tens is benched. Subrosa from Ghost Gaming is starting in his place on a trial basis.
I think in a vacuum, it's a really weird play to make, just because Tens was supposed to be this up-and-comer who was possibly going to be like the next NA great young CSGO
He was supposed
player.
To be the next Stewie. That's what everyone was saying.
But based on everything I've seen, it sounds like he just had a bad attitude for a team sport.
I don't think it's his attitude much. I think it was just his playstyle in general. Tens wanted to play his role and play around the team in a very different way than the rest of the team wanted to play around. I think that like how his approach to the game, his playstyle just really clashed with all of the other members on the team, and he was really underperforming on the team because of that.
Oh yeah, but it comes down to how he plays within the team also. Like, it doesn't matter if you're LeBron James if nobody wants you to play like LeBron James.
No, yeah, that's also true.
Yeah, and he's a rookie who just got into his first team, and you would expect him to take more to the professional scene than saying, "Hey, no, play my way," to a bunch of guys who have been around the block and have been playing for a long time.
It could be that way. I think it may just be that since he is still a fairly green player, he hasn't been playing in the professional scene for a while, and he's probably not used to playing, on professional teams like this before. He can't just it's not like a switch where he can just change how he plays to better suit the team just yet. And I think it's, on one hand, it's understandable, but on the other hand, it's, you have this player that's really young and doesn't have a lot of experience. You need to mold that talent to better suit your needs, rather than at the first sign of underperformance, you can't just be what C9 CSGO has been doing for the past 2 years and just, well, not 2 years, but basically year and a half, and just benching and cutting players and replacing them with pretty much the same unilateral moves. And you're not raising your talent ceiling or anything. You're getting just well, this player was kind of mediocre, let's try out this other mediocre player. Instead of taking Tens, who's a very a misshapen ball of clay, instead of molding it into what you want, you're just saying that's not going to work out, let's try this new ball of clay, or this kind of misshapen, already formed ball of clay that's not really what we could work with.
All right, here's where I'm going to disagree with you. If a 5-star freshman came in to Banema, like the best recruit in the country.
Okay, yes, good. Use it in terms I can understand.
And he comes in and he's in his first game, he breaks in assignment because he thinks he can make a play in Saban, and he doesn't play for the team in the system, as opposed to trying to get this personal glory interception, and Alabama loses on like the last play, or they let out a deep touchdown. Do you think Saban's gonna trot that guy right back out there?
Oh no, I think Saban would first curse him up and down and yell at him like he's never been yelled at before.
Exactly.
Then he would bench him, and that the quarterback may never play that season if he can't figure out that we have a system in place and you play towards that system. And if you don't, there's not going to be a lot of opportunities for you.
Exactly. So
and I completely understand that.
Yeah, it could have been a long standing problem throughout practice of him not showing that he wants to work for the team more than just his potential in the future. Like, if he's not going to play for the team, it doesn't really matter what he does, because it's not going to get you to the next level anyway.
No, yeah, and I understand that. I think part of it is me speaking from a very jaded, tired Cloud9 fan. Like, we've seen
Which is fair.
We've seen this process go over so many times where we're just signing these mid-tier level players over and over again, trying to make these budget rosters work, trying to make it work with names that are semi well known or names that have been around for maybe a bit too long. Like, we're trying everything, and we're basically going like, okay, how is this going to work out like for like 4 months? And then after that 4-month period, we go, this clearly isn't working because we still suck. Now we have to dismantle everything again, instead of, I think maybe Cloud9 needs to take a step back and reevaluate what's really the problem. Maybe it's their system that's the problem. Hell, maybe I don't know. Maybe it could be Automatic. I don't think it is, because Automatic's a very good player, and he has a lot of reputation behind him. I don't think Automatic is the case. Automatic is the player that you build around. Maybe we're just building around him all wrong. I have no idea. But I think that at this point, you have to look at the bigger picture and say, what is Cloud9 and what is Cloud9 CSGO as a whole doing wrong that is making this team be such a failure over and over and over again?
Oh, well, yeah. I do agree with that. But if he's not showing enough willingness to play for the team, then that's a him problem also. And he's still young, so it's not like he can't come back from it. And hopefully that this is a kick in the ass to help him.
I think it's
reevaluate.
It's probably I think of both parties are kind of at fault, and it's not that it's one's fault or the other. I think both the team as well as the player have issues that are making things very difficult, and it kind of created the situation, which is what it probably is.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, he is not the coach or GM of the team. So if he's not going to work with them, then that's what happens. And he's still really young. He's got plenty of time to learn, and he still could become a superstar. But getting there is not an easy step for anyone. Nobody goes pro and it never hits a bump. So hopefully he comes good. He seems like he's obviously good enough, but you can't be good enough to be the best in the world if you're not going to play for a team.
Yeah, and I think I really hope it does work out for Tense, because I did watch Sabrosa play on our team. I think it was even just the first match that he was subbed in for. I don't think that they had much practice, but the team did not look that great. Like, they looked about the same. I didn't see any real mild improvement. They looked maybe a bit worse. but it seemed like it was business as usual for C9 CSGO, where they have fits and starts, but they're just not. They're not playing consistently, and they're not playing well. And they've been invited to recently. I think it was some tournament.
DreamHack Atlanta.
Yeah, yes, they were recently invited to DreamHack Atlanta, and so Bros is probably going to play. I really have no expectations for this team, and I'm honestly thinking, how long does this go on before I think you really just look at CSGO and say, is this really a worthwhile game to continue to be in? If we're constantly spending money and constantly having to rotate players out and constantly having to negotiate these contracts and do all of this headache just to continue to have just like a mediocre team, I guess you kind of, at least for me, I'm kind of questioning, why are we still in CSGO if we've essentially destroyed and ruined the clout that we had when we won the major. When we won last year, we could probably have gotten any player, and any player would have instantly signed that contract and said, I'll play for you, because you were you guys made a great team and you were able to do something that was deemed impossible. That has all been completely destroyed with how C9 has mishandled that whole situation. And I don't think that they're ever going to reach a point where they can probably get some really big names and form like a superstar roster anymore. So I guess I'm just kind of questioning, at what point is even having a CSGO roster even worth it if you're not going to be making the impact that you did like a year ago?
No, and I think you do make a good argument, but I do go back to like the whole team thing, because that major winning team was not a bunch of all-star players. The team they beat, who was it in the final? They beat FaZe, who was a team of superstars. So I guess the point is like saying like that was a special team, not a collective of special players. So I feel like it's tough to do that. It's tough
I agree.
to find a team that is so unified as one, that they're always there for each other at the right times in games, and like they can just read each other's minds, and that does take time to develop, which is not something that we've done during our endless rebuilding phase. So
we'll just have to see. I think that questions like this are something that I think as fans we do have to kind of start posing. It sucks to be questioning C9 in such a negative way. I feel really bad because I think this year has probably been the most that I have been negatively questioning the team and the org and their decisions. But I think we're just gonna have to just see how this plays out and keep some of these questions in mind and see where it goes from here.
And that comes back to our umbrella conversation that we discussed earlier that we're saving for another pod. During the off season, because we will have time.
I do want to shelve this discussion. We still have a shit ton. We still have two big topics to talk about. Let us know what you think in the comments about the CSGO situation. What's your take on the whole thing? I would really like to discuss this more, because I think it's a really interesting point to talk about, because a lot of Cloud9 fans do have a lot of opinions on this team. So we're going to stop here for that. We're going to move on to talking about the London Spitfire, because it has been a week. It's been a week for Overwatch League, friends. London first announced that they assigned 3 new assistant coaches. You have Twinkle, Awesome Guy, and Pavane. Pavane is probably the most highlighted coach, because he was the head coach for the NYXL up until the end of the season, basically. So you have a pretty big, high-profile coach and 2 other seemingly competent coaches coming in to work with Agape, who is now the head coach. I think London's going in a very interesting direction. with this move because they were probably seeing, okay, what was hurting us the last 2 years? Coaching a team that is rumored to be uncoachable. So it looks like they're putting in a lot of resources into getting like really good coaches. Unfortunately, this move was coupled by us letting go Prophet and Gesture. Now, I don't care much about Gesture. I have historically said on the show that I don't really like Gesture. I think he was not a good fit and he needed to go. You can play those tapes. I have been very critical of him. But losing Prophet was something that I really am questioning because he is one of the best DPS players in the league. And if you let go of this, and they did. It was announced today, I think, or yesterday, that they were going to be playing for the Seoul Dynasty. So you're letting him go off to the Seoul Dynasty. Either he asked or you kicked him because basically of their attitudes. I don't know the move, especially when it's rumored that Carpe, the player that everyone is assuming would take Prophet's place, is going to be remaining for the Philadelphia Fusion in like a 3-year contract. So Frozen, I guess what's your take on this whole situation, and what do you think that we're even doing with Overwatch at the moment?
Yeah, I think we're kind of in a tough spot with like the whole geographic thing, the whole teams have locations thing, because it kind of does give an advantage to New York teams, LA teams, and Korean teams, because Korean teams, the players can live back home in Seoul, so they have a huge advantage by doing that. And I think that is part of the reason that Prophet and Gesture would have wanted to leave. I mean, I can't, or I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't want to go to live in London, because that would be really dope as someone from a completely different culture. I mean, it's completely different to LA, or they played in Santa Monica or Oakland or something. I forgot. But it is a huge cultural change from there. It's a huge cultural change from Seoul, from Busan, or wherever they're from. So I do see a reason why they would want to go back home and play where they're familiar with everything. But I have to imagine that we allowed them to go once they asked or Seoul approached. But it does leave 2 pretty good sized holes in our squad. We're short a gorilla, and we're short a super strong DPS.
Yeah, and I don't really know if you can't pick up Carpe as well, and it's assumed that Sparkle, who is everyone's golden boy that they want their hands on, is also taken. I think the rumor is that he's going to go to Paris, which is weird. He wouldn't expect them to have the kind of the financing or the power to get such a name, but I saw a rumor that he would be going over to Paris. It's nothing substantiated, of course, but that's what I saw. If you're not getting someone super high profile like that, who would you get? And honestly, I've seen a lot of people saying that they're most likely going to go for a more budget-driven team, and they're looking for a lot more coachable players, and they're probably getting a lot of players from, like the contenders scene. I know Elemental Mystic is a really good Korean contenders team, but I'm not sure if that's the best way to go. I think you would need at least a few other players from the Overwatch League, at least experience-wise. We could go for a bigger 12-man roster. It just feels like the lack of information currently. It feels like London just has no direction. Like they start off really great. You got like all these good coaches, so you have like this really good sort of hive mind of, okay, exactly how you want to train and grow your players and everything. But if you don't have a certain quality of players, I feel like it's a big step down when you're like, okay, I can see you getting rid of Birdring because Birdring's super inconsistent. That I can handle. You got rid of Gesture. That's great. Gesture was a thorn in London's side, I think, and was just really on a different page than the rest of the team. But then you see people going, Okay, well, Profit's gone. Okay. Fury is rumored to maybe go to the New York Excelsior. So you're essentially losing the player. You're losing all the players you're essentially wanting to build around. You know, you lose Profit, you lose Fury. Yeah, you know, if you're gonna lose like your entire team, I don't know where you go from there and then come out on top as having like a positive winning season going into season 3.
Oh no, I see where you're coming from, because it is a difficult situation. We took some really big steps back during season 2, and it doesn't look like that we're making the moves that we need to take the next step and become elite again. And we're kind of just taking sideways to lower tier moves that are just going to hurt the team. But maybe the coaches and GMs see something that we don't. But it doesn't feel like they're trying to build a team around that core that won the Overwatch League in season 1, and that they're just trying to build a team based off of what they can get. Maybe even they read the tea leaves, like maybe they see that Overwatch League is failing or something, and that it's not worth the investment to field players for 3 years. I could be wrong about that, but it doesn't feel like they are putting the required time or money investment into it. But I guess I could be wrong, because they are going to have to get some infrastructure into London, and that probably it isn't cheap.
No, yeah, I think that, to be fair to London, and I think that this is something that does kind of hurt all my points, is that we honestly don't have any news about what's going on in London. Like, you're seeing all these other leaks from, like, you're seeing all this other news of, like, oh, Los Angeles, you know, the Valiant blew up their roster, Boston blew up their roster, and, you know, you're seeing all these moves about people going to other teams, but I've seen virtually, like, nothing of people going to London. So I think it's an interesting point of them not leaking any information, or no information leaking out. I think that it's kind of interesting. So we don't really know what's going on. I think, and this is a hunch, a positive hunch, in that London is going for a team that is maybe not as super talented as the team that was able to win the championship, but they're going for a talented team that can be coached up to a higher level. I think that the problem with the team for really the past 2 seasons, I think that them getting into playoff form and the meta kind of fitting into how they wanted to play was just really lucky, honestly. But how the team had looked before, you know, the end of this season was just, they were just really uncoordinated. It looked like no one was really on the same page, and everyone was just kind of trying to do whatever they wanted personally. You know, Gesture looked really separate from the healers. The healers looked really separate from the DPS. The DPS looked really separate from the tanks. Like, the roles seemed really split. No one was really playing as a unit, and everyone was just hoping, okay, if Prophet can play really well, and if Birdring can play really well, and maybe Fury can play really well, and if Gesture doesn't kill himself enough, the team can win, and we have a good shot at winning. And I think that's kind of how they played. And I think that London just says, like, okay, that was a really bad way of, like, running things. You know, you can't always rely on 1 or 2 people that have really large skill ceilings to constantly put out really good performances. And I think maybe they're going towards a more consistent overall team that can be coached and elevated with the right coaching. Probably, at least with these coach signings that we saw here.
Oh yeah, and you can tell that they possibly learned something that the league developed around them in season 2, and they didn't change to fix it. Because in season 1 they had the best individual talent, and that was enough to win the whole thing. But that didn't work out in season 2. So it could be them just going back to the drawing board and trying to build something new for season 4, more so than season 3.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see season 3 as just a rebuild year. Just you have your players, you have your coaches, you have everyone kind of work together and really develop something. And then season 4, you turn it on, and then you really start to actually play and get a better idea of what the roster needs, and actually go for the fences. And that's a legitimate strategy in these franchise sports. Football and basketball teams do that all the time, where they have rebuild years, and they have a kind of a bad year because they're trying to go in a different direction. So that's a viable, definite possibility, and I could see that. I am checking the competitive Overwatch subreddit like every 5 minutes. So once we hear news, you'll bet that I will share it with everybody.
Yes, you will. Yeah, and just one last thing to add. The league is still young, so everyone's still trying to figure everything out at this point. And I do think that Cloud9 does have a advantage over most teams, just due to the fact that they have such a large infrastructure through esports, and they have so much money need to throw around. So
plus just the cash that they probably got from giving Profit and Gesture to Soul, they probably cost a lot. I don't think you give away those two unless Soul is willing to give an arm and a leg to ensure that they get those players. You don't give them away for free. I'm assuming that they got a big paycheck for that.
Yeah, I would think so.
But those are our ramblings on that. We will definitely keep everyone updated on the situation. I'm hoping sometime in the next couple of weeks they'll announce something. It's looking like some teams are starting to form. A lot of other Overwatch League teams have just been blowing up their rosters and getting a lot of new players. I think I saw today that Paris released a lot of people. I think Boston and the Valiant released almost everybody. So it's been a really crazy time of just teams. A lot of teams just getting rid of everybody and then trying to just start over. So it's really going to be cool to see where the pieces fall. But on to League of Legends. So Frozen, Worlds happened.
Yeah, let's talk about the fun things first. How was your pick'ems? How'd your group stage go?
My group stage actually worked out pretty well. I think I really only got one group super wrong.
Group A.
Let me see. I have to pull it up.
All right. I made a last switch to Group B. At the 11th hour, I switched J Team and Splice, so I had J Team getting second, and they did not get second. They got third. So I did not get a perfect group in Group B, but I did get Group C and D perfect. So
I got Group C perfect. Team Liquid completely fucked me.
Yeah, I had them at third.
I put them at second because I was thinking, okay, there's no way the double lift for the upteenth time fails to get out of groups and looks like a fool. But spoiler alert, that's what happened. And Damwon apparently, Damwon apparently turned it on in group stage, and they just crushed it. But other than that, it was mostly just I got the order of Group A's first 2 places wrong. I got Group B's last 2 places wrong, and other than that, I was fairly accurate.
How many points do you have?
I have 38 points currently.
I have 43.
I
had 2
so many points.
Perfect groups. I could have had 3 if I hadn't switched a Splice and J Team, but I just had an itch that who was it, Fufu or Fofo from J Team? I was gonna come out big, but
I didn't want to put J Team higher than 4th because J Team historically has just not had a good history at World.
Fair, but I just had some inkling that they might be good, and they were decent, but not good enough. But yeah, enough about that. I guess we should talk about
the large blue
Cloud9
elephant
first.
in the room.
Yeah, Cloud9 went 2-4 in groups. People are very mad, even though I don't really think it's that surprising.
I was expecting them not to get out.
If you had told me beforehand that they would go 2-4 in groups, I would not have been that surprised, just due to the difficulty of their group.
I was more upset, like very upset, and Emma was this way too. But I was upset not because that they didn't get out of groups, but the fact that they were taking extremely winnable games, and they had the games that they were playing in spots where this game is completely winnable as long as you don't play like idiots, and then they just play like idiots and then lose.
To be fair, there was probably one game that we should have won that we didn't win, and that was the first Griffin game, and that wouldn't have made a difference. We would have just gone 3-3. Realistically, because Griffin just, I mean, that first game on our day 2, they just beat the snot out of us. I really liked our comp. I really liked the Kaisa, Galio, Nocturne. I can't think of who else he picked, and they just tarred and feathered us and took us out back and shot us too. So I think at that point I knew it was over with, because I had to seriously convince myself not to pick G2 and Griffin in the finals, because they both look really good.
Oh yeah, they definitely look like probably a couple of the strongest teams. I think that a lot of the criticism over Cloud9's performance this Worlds was a lot of it was the emphasis on draft, as well as how we were playing Blabber over Svenskeren.
Let's start with rosters. So, Blabber played what, 2 games? He played the
Blabber
first
played, yeah.
Griffin and G2.
No, I think Blabber play like all of the game. Like Svenskeren only played 1 game.
I thought he played all day 3 or day 2. I guess I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, you have to go back and look. I can't remember, but I know that Blabber played a lot, and I really didn't like that move.
I mean, I think my biggest thing with it was it seemed like Reaper got a little too cute, and he was trying to play, or that they had spent the whole practice time playing to game plan around their opponents rather than get better as a team. And I think that's what the big
yes,
glaring weakness was for me. But
I agree.
I think it's something we've done in the past, but I also do think that these were 2 exceptionally good teams, and that maybe that is how they felt our best chance of was getting out of the group stage.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. One last thing, but I do find it concerning that Reaper felt he had to go to Blabber to play against G2 and Griffin to play at least, because he didn't trust Svenskeren in there to do the same thing. And to be fair, I think Blabber played quite well for the first 20 minutes of the games. So
I completely agree. I think that how we were able to do so well last year is because instead of playing Europe or China or Korea's style of play, is we went with our own style of play, and instead of letting other regions and other play styles dictate what we picked what we felt comfortable with, and we operated what was comfortable for us, and we were able to go to semifinals. This Worlds, we were trying to just copy what everyone else was doing. We're going to do mage bot lanes. Well, Sneaky is not good at mage bot lanes. Sneaky was benched because he was not good at mage bot lanes, and he struggled with that so much so that we had to put Golden Glue and Keith in. So I think that's a big misfire there, and I think with putting Blabber in, if you look historically at his games this year, he looked amazing in the first 20 minutes, but 20 minutes plus, we would lose those games. We lost to, I think, like 100 Thieves this year. We were losing to like last place teams when he was playing, because I think his decision making and the team's decision making just goes to crap. I think he just has one gear, and that's fight. And I think paired with him and Niski, who Niski also really likes to fight a lot, I think that just creates this big problem of no one's making good decisions. Everyone's just looking for when the next fight is, rather than asking, do we really need to fight here? We don't have a composition that really likes to fight a lot. That game where Licorice was playing Fiora, they had no business fighting like much at all, but they were constantly trying to fight. And I think that you have to know your players well enough as a coach to look at that and say, Blabber, you just can't play. With how you play, it kind of brings the team down. We need someone with more experience and a better head. And I just don't think that... I think that we made a really bad decision of letting that happen, and I think that's really what kind of helped contributed us to us losing a lot of games.
Yeah, I did think that the way we played around our comp in a couple of the games was questionable. I didn't like how he played into the gear in Yumi either time he played it, and what I wanted to see more than anything else was for us to just pick Vayne Braum into gear in Yumi and just CC them to death. But instead we picked Kill twice, I think, on the second day. Then we gave Niski Cassiopeia, and then Sven into the game in the first 5 minutes. So that game was literally over 5 minutes in our G2 game on our game day 2. So that game was just over automatically. And I think from there I understood why Blabber was playing, because he outclassed Yankos that first game, and he was insanely impressive. But it kind of makes me wonder what was going on in scrims to make Reaper say that we need to play Blabber against these big teams.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I know there was one game where they had they put Niski on Tristana and Sneaky on Cassiopeia. When
that was weird.
It made no sense. You have someone, so you have a player that's really well known for his Cassiopeia, and he has really high mechanics, and he's super known for Cassiopeia. And then you have another player who's really, really comfortable with 80 traditional 80 carries, especially ones that have some good scaling. But then you just completely switch it around, so you're having two players playing champions they're not as familiar with, and it honestly infuriated me, because it was mistakes that from looking at the past and from experience you shouldn't be making, but you're making them anyway because all the other teams are doing Tristana mid and Mage bot lanes, when Mage bot lanes was looking really not that great at the tournament anyway. It just really upset me that some of the decisions that were being made were some things that we should have learned way before we were making those decisions.
Yeah, and I think at the time I did agree with you, but I think in Niski's game on Cassiopeia against G2, I guess I can kind of get why they might have tried to give Sneaky Cassiopeia, even though he didn't look good on it. But Niski was literally 50 CS down at 13 minutes against G2, which is, I mean, that's not just unacceptable. That's
pretty bad.
That is probably the worst CSD at 15 minutes all group stages by anyone. So I think it just comes down to the fact that we just didn't play well enough. You can blame it on specific people. Niski severely underperformed. It was his first time at Worlds. The bot lane wasn't actually that bad. Sneaky might have ended the group stage with the most DPS among mid lane or ADCs, just because of the two Gear and Yumi games. But I don't think he was much of a problem. Licorice played well, but we couldn't get that mid jungle to work that well together. And I think that is ultimately what unwound us, because G2 has Jankos and Caps, and Griffin has Tarzan and Chovy. Is that the mid laner?
I think so.
Yeah, Chovy. Which, I mean, even if Iniski and Sven are at their best, I think those two duos are still just better.
Yeah, it was just a really rough Worlds. I think that we weren't at the strength we probably wanted to be, especially after last year. And last year is very hard to live up to. And we did have a really tough group. It's still really disappointing, especially how if you take a lot of those games and look at like 15 minutes in and go like, oh man, C9's in a really good spot here. They could definitely win. And then they just don't. I think it hurts even more. But what probably hurts a lot more to a lot of NA fans is the fact that North America did not do well at Worlds, period.
No, they did not. And I mean, you could almost, I think you could almost make an argument that Cloud9 was the best performing team. Team Liquid had an easier group and still couldn't get out.
Yeah, I think that outside of, from being a C9 fan, if you're being like just an NA fan in general, Team Liquid's performance really does have to deserve a lot of chastisement, just because they had an easier group, and plus, like, you have such a cocky attitude and such a cocky atmosphere with Doublelift and Jensen on the same team. I can just imagine them grinning, just this big grin as the tournament starts. They're going, "We're going to get out of this, no problem." And then, of course, the annual year of Doublelift saying, "Sorry guys, next year for sure." But this is like the third or fourth year you've said next year for sure. Maybe you shouldn't be such a cocky dude then, if this is like your consistent pattern.
Yeah, and I mean, Doublelift played fine. His team did kind of collapse around him. Jetson bodied his own team. Smithy is still not good enough. Impact was mostly okay, but they were in a tough group also. But I think that it was more manageable than ours was, and they could only pull out one more win.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which you can argue they had 3 wins. They were the best NA team, but I feel like, especially if you count expectations, Team Liquid was the most disappointing team. And because I think once you got to that group stage day 2, you could see that G2 and Griffin were by far the best team. And
yeah, exactly.
Group stage, and that we realistically probably shouldn't have thought that we could get out, because they both look like potential world champions.
Yeah, for sure.
In my opinion. So
I mean, if I had to make like a top 4, I would probably say G2, Griffin, SKT, and maybe Invictus, just because they won it last year.
I still think Damwon and FPX. I'm
Invictus
still torn on
FPX.
FPX.
You could probably swap in and out.
Yeah, but do you have anything else you want to add, or do you want to go to our pick'ems for the knockout stage?
We can do pick'ems. I think I've complained enough, and I think our listeners have heard enough of my stupid, upset complaining.
How do you think I feel then?
Oh, for sure. You have to do this every week with me.
Every week they can zone out. I can't.
Exactly.
I'm kidding. But do you want to go first, or do you want?
Yeah. I can go down. For quarterfinals, I have Griffin beating Invictus. I have FunPlus. No, I have Fnatic beating FunPlus. I have SKT pretty much destroying Splice, and I have Damwon beating G2.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go round by round, I guess. Full disclosure: this very well could change quite a bit before group stages start on Saturday. So this is what I have right now. I have G2 beating IG in the first game, which I feel like is pretty close to a coin flip, but G2's at home. I'm going backwards.
Griffin plays Invictus.
Yes, I have Griffin beating Invictus, which I think is like a 60-40, a 55-45 kind of thing. I feel like IG turned it up at the end of the group stages, but I still feel like Griffin's a better team if they play like they did on day 2 of the groups. Right now, I have Fnatic beating FPX because of the home field advantage kind of thing. It's going to be rowdy for Fnatic. There's no culture shock, no nothing really to bother them.
Plus, that crowd's gotta be just like super behind them.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't give that benefit to Splice. I have SKT beating the tar out of them pretty quickly and easily. And then right now, I have G2 beating Damwon. I think I'm sleeping a little bit on Damwon, but I've called them overrated before, so I'm gonna hold that off and just say that G2's gonna win. Since I just did the quarterfinals, I'll do my semis now while it's fresh. So right now I have Griffin versus Fnatic, and I have Griffin coming out on top. And then I have SKT versus G2 and SKT coming out on top. But that is pretty close for me. I think that's a 55-45, and I could see it going either way. And I think it's a really juicy matchup.
My picks are pretty much the same. I have Griffin winning, and I have SKT winning.
Who do you have winning between Griffin and SKT?
I have SKT. I mean, they've looked like pretty much back to the form that had given them 3 championships, at the world stage. So, Faker's playing phenomenally. It looks like this SKT roster is just firing on all cylinders after having a bit of a slumping period for a little while. So I think Faker's angry. He's angry that he's had a rough little while. I think he doesn't want to see these stupid, teams come onto his stage, onto his throne, and say like, "We want this trophy too." No, that's his 4th trophy. Baker's gonna take it, from everyone's like cold, dead hands.
Yeah, and I think that's where I kind of am, but I still have Griffin coming out on top in that game. 3rd time's a charm, so that's what I'm hoping for. It's tough to beat a team like SKT has with Griffin the past couple finals in LCK, and I don't know. I just have a feeling it could be Griffin now that we've finally seen them make their Worlds debut.
Yeah, it could definitely happen. I think that, like I said, like probably the top 4, it's very close. So you could probably see like any of those kind of win, but I think it's probably, I think it's SKT favored. I think, but we'll have to see. When is let's see, the first match looks like October 26 at
it's Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep, Saturday, Sunday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, 6 on Saturday, and then 11 and noon for the second games. But I think that's dependent on when the first best of 5 finishes. So if it's a quick 3-0, I think it would start sooner.
Yeah, it definitely could. We'll have to see. I'm just hoping for some really good games in this bracket stage.
Yeah, we do have some really juicy matchups. I think the only lame one is SKT versus Splice, to be honest.
Yeah, that's going to be really boring.
And with Group B as weak as it was bound to happen that one matchup was meh. So,
yeah.
But I guess,
all right.
Is that it?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else. If you liked what you heard and you want to listen to more of us, you can follow us at C9 Bodied. Subscribe to us on YouTube and everything like that. Thanks for listening.
10 seconds. I'm looking at the Gmail. Okay, nope, we're good.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
All right, bye.